Today, I'm making a chocolate cream roll cake. Today's ingredients are eggs, sugar, salt, vanilla extract, coffee powder, all-purpose flour, unsweetened cocoa, baking powder, oil, and finally buttermilk. So we're going to start by adding 4 room temperature eggs to a bowl and beat them for about 3 minutes until they're nice and frothy. To the egg mixture, you're going to slowly mix in 3/4 of a cup of granulated sugar along with 1 teaspoon of coffee powder. Mix this in slowly. Now you're going to add in 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. For the final part of our wet ingredients, mix in 6 tablespoons of buttermilk and 1/4 cup of oil. I used avocado oil, but any neutral oil will work. If you don't have buttermilk, whole milk will work as well. It's time to start adding the dry ingredients. You are going to add 1 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and then you are going to sift in, or you can just whisk it up and then add it so that any lumps get out of there. But you're going to do 2/3 of a cup of flour and 1/3 of a cup of unsweetened cocoa powder. Just mix this cake until all of the flour and cocoa powder has dissolved into the batter. You don't want to over-mix it. This is one of those cakes that's on repeat at our house. Now, I have to admit, I've never been able to roll up this cake and not have it crack on me, but I don't worry about that. I know a lot of jelly rolls will crack, and the filling holds it together so it still looks beautiful. Now you're going to add your batter to a parchment-lined 10 by 15 or jelly roll pan, and it is a thin batter. It makes a very thin cake because you're going to be rolling it up. So you're just going to want to get this in the pan and then tap it a couple of times to get any air bubbles out before you place it into your 350-degree oven, which you're going to bake it for 12 to 15 minutes. While your cake is baking, it's the perfect time to make that whipped cream filling. So in a small bowl, you're going to add 1 teaspoon of unflavored gelatin, and to that you're going to add 1.5 tablespoons of cold water. Mix it and set it off to the side. In order to make a stabilized whipped cream that doesn't break down too quickly, you need to add this gelatin to it. One of the things that my family likes about this chocolate cake is it's got the chocolate flavor, but it's kind of light because the whipped cream is very lightly sweet. And I've been able to make this ahead of time, stick it in the freezer, and we can just pull it out when we need it. Anytime you can make something ahead of time and freeze it and have it for later on, that's a win in my book. So you are going to be using a mixer for this, and you're going to add 1.5 cups of cold heavy whipping cream, and to that you will need to add 3/4 of a cup of powdered sugar. You could add less if you wanted to, 1/2 cup, and if you want it sweeter you can go all the way up to a cup. I just find that 3/4 of a cup is the perfect amount of sweetness, and then you need 1 teaspoon of vanilla as well. When this mixture becomes very stiff and is almost forming peaks, you are going to microwave that gelatin that you had sitting off to the side for 5 to 7 minutes to get it into its liquid form, and you are going to slowly add it and beat it in so that it's making the stabilized whipped cream. This whipped cream could be the perfect addition to any recipe that called for whipped cream, so feel free to use that recipe in more than just this type of cake. Make sure you get every last bit of that gelatin, as it is what is going to keep that whipped cream together so that it doesn't turn back into a liquid form. This most likely will make more whipped cream than what you actually need. Now that your whipped cream is so thick that it is hanging on the side of that spoon and not falling off, you're going to cover it, refrigerate it, and when you are ready for it in a couple of hours, you'll be able to use it to fill the cake. Grab yourself a clean tea towel, lay that down, and you are going to dust that tea towel with some powdered sugar, and that is to help keep the cake from sticking to it. So when it comes out of the oven, you are going to flip the cake out onto the tea towel that has been dusted with powdered sugar, and you're going to roll it up while it is still hot. So you're going to flip it out, you're going to remove the parchment paper which will be stuck to it, and then you are going to roll it up, put it on a cooling rack, and let it sit there for at least an hour. You want it to become completely cool before you unroll it. All right, so several hours later, I started to unroll it, and you can see where my cracks are here. You're going to fill this with a thin layer of cream. You don't want to fill it too thick because it'll get kind of sloppy, but you'll have some powdered sugar on there. You can top it with powdered sugar. So after I have it rolled up, I'm just moving it onto a piece of parchment paper and getting rid of this tea towel. Powdered sugar comes out of the tea towel really easily. Just run it through cold water and it won't be a problem. I do that in my sink, and then I put it in the laundry from there. So as you can see, my log is laying here and it looks great. Even though there are cracks in it, it still looks beautiful. Now this is a different one that I had taken a picture of. I filled it, I think, maybe a little too thick on that one, but it tastes wonderful. I hope you'll give this a try. Thank you for joining me here at White Shadow Fare, and consider subscribing and hitting that like button.